Hi everyone! Today we are going to be doing a get ready with me. I am just going to do my makeup, nothing really all that exciting, I'm just spending my day at home. But today's focus is all high-end products. So these are all kind of more mid-range price point. This is kind of what I like to wear when I'm feeling a little fancier. So a little bit higher price point, but great products. I'm just going to be finishing drinking my coffee and just getting ready. This mug is from my friend Sabrina. I got it for my birthday a couple of years ago. It's Sailor Moon and Starbucks inspired, two of my favorite things. Okay, so I'm going to be starting out with the Becca Backlight Priming Filter. So just a glowy kind of primer. I don't think that this really does anything for the longevity of my makeup, but I really like the kind of luminosity and glow that it gives my skin underneath foundation. So I just kind of dot it all over and rub it in. Alright, and then again, I really like a more kind of pore filling and mattifying primer just in kind of this area here. So this one is the Smashbox Photo Finish Pore Minimizing Primer. So just a little tiny bit of that, all you really need. And then I like to warm it up between my fingers before I go in and press it into the skin there. Okay, and the foundation that we are going to be using today is the NARS Sheer Glow. The color is Oslo Light 1. It is definitely a more pink toned foundation. So I use just about a pump of this. This is going to be too much, honestly. But I do like that using this one with a brush. I think it gives a little bit better coverage. And this is just one of the IT Cosmetics brushes from Ulta. I like to just kind of press this in first with the brush. And then kind of buff it in a little bit as needed, but mostly using pressing motions. As you can see, a little bit goes a very long way. I don't really know why they call this foundation the Sheer Glow, because it's not really a sheer coverage. I find that it's like kind of a medium covered foundation, which is really what I like, but a lot more coverage than the name kind of lets on. So for concealer, we are going to go in with, again, the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. This is the shade Light 1 as well. This one has more of a yellow undertone than the foundation does, but I find that it just brightens really nicely under the eyes. And then we're going to take the shade Light 2, which is more of a pink undertone as well, also much closer to my skin tone, and just kind of a little bit on any of the spots that the foundation didn't cover. Just taking my concealer brush. After blending my concealer in with my concealer brush, I always like to go back in with my foundation brush and just make sure everything is pressed in. For powder, I have this little sample that I got in an Ipsy bag. It's from KVD Vegan Beauty. Used to be Kat Von D's brand, but I believe she's separated out from the brand now. But this is just the Lock It Translucent setting powder. Starting with my under eyes, I'm using a Luxie 522 tapered highlight brush. I like this brush for under eye setting powder more than I do for highlighter, actually. Just tapping out any creases. And I'm using this brush just to get the places where I put concealer, just to set those down. Then I'm gonna take the Luxie 508 Duo Fiber stippling brush. I find that this gives me just a light amount of powder because I don't feel like this foundation needs to be set down too heavily. Just a light layer of powder is perfectly fine to keep it in place. We're gonna start with the rest of the complexion products. So for bronzer, I am using the Tarte Park Avenue Princess bronzer. Just looks like this. It's a nice kind of shimmery type bronzer. The brush that I'm using is a Luxie 520, just a tapered face brush. I like to kind of pinch it so that it's a little bit flat so I can kind of find the hollow of my cheek, so that I am kind of using it to contour and to bronze. I just feel it gives a little bit more shape to the face, rather than just going in with the round kind of shaped brush. I like to place down the powder and then go back in and blend it out. And then I just take whatever's left over around the nose area. And then we blend. Always blending upward so that you're not dragging that line down. So we made that line for definition, we want to keep the line. So up and back. And then towards the hairline for the forehead area. And then for blush, we're going to be using the NARS blush in the shade Love. It's just a nice cool toned pink. And for this one, I do find that this formula is a little bit more stiff and dense, so I like to use a more dense, kind of angled packed powder brush. So this is just a large angled brush, the Luxie 504, and then just kind of tapping in, tapping off the excess. And then I like to find my cheekbone, just kind of press it in, and then whatever is left over on the apple of my cheeks, because I tend to naturally flush more in this area, so as the day goes on I'll get more red, and we want the blush to kind of blend more seamlessly into our natural color. And then after I'm done with bronzer and blush, I like to just go in and blend everything with my powder brush just to make sure there are no harsh lines. For highlighter, I'm going to be using the Ofra highlighter in Star Island. And then this is just a highlighter brush that I got in an Ipsy bag. I'm not even sure what brand it is from. I like to kind of turn my head and find where the light would naturally hit my cheekbone. And just kind of in circular motions. These Ofra highlighters can be incredibly blinding. So I always like to tap off first the excess product. Take the extra just above the arch of my eyebrow. And just a little bit onto the Cupid's bow. Okay, so I'm going to do my eyebrows next. I have the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz. This is the color medium brown. So I always like to start just by brushing my eyebrows upward, just to kind of find the natural like bottom line here. And then starting in the middle, just kind of filling in any gaps and just kind of going with the shape of my eyebrow. And then working my way back up to the front. Just very light strokes. You don't want to go too heavy, otherwise they look kind of blocky. And then I like to brush downward and do the exact same thing. So kind of following the natural shape, just outlining it, and then drawing strokes in the direction the hair grows. And then using this spoolie to blend. Okay. I like to just brush through again at the end just to make sure everything is nice and seamless and blended and nothing is missing as far as like a chunk of where I needed to fill in. To set my brows, I have this little tiny baby Benefit Give Me Brow. It's the shade 2. This is a little bit lighter than what I like, but I got this in an Ipsy bag and I like the formula of it, so I will still continue to use it. Next we are going to do eyeshadow. I'm going to use my Tartelette in Bloom palette. I do have all 3 Tartelette palettes. This one's probably my favorite out of the 3. Just more kind of muted everyday tones. Pretty just cool toned. I like to start with this pink shade called Sweetheart. And this is a Lexi 205 tapered blending brush. I like to just throw this one kind of in the crease and slightly above as a transition shade. Just a nice light wash of color. And then for the lower lash line, also taking a Luxie 217 pencil brush, and then just taking that same shade and just running it all along the lower lash line there. I always start from outer corner and bring it into the inner corner. Then I like to take a slightly more densely packed blending brush. This one is the 205 Lexi tapered blending brush as well. I think one is just older than the other, and that's why it's more kind of fanned out. This one I'm taking the shade Rebel, this shade here, tapping off the excess and just lightly taking into the crease. So I like to just kind of apply it and then slightly blend it with this brush, and then take back my more fanned out brush with a little bit more color. This just gives us a nice, like, diffused look. Back in with the pencil brush, taking that Rebel shade again, and then just about halfway across our lower lash line. Alright. And then for my outer corner, I'm going to be using the Luxie 237 blending brush, little tiny baby here, and then I'm going to take a mixture of the shades Activist and Leader, so these two darker shades, tapping off the excess, and then just lightly tapping it into the outer corner, and slightly into the crease. I'm gonna take that brush then again that we used with the mid-tone color and use that to blend it out. Alright, taking a little tiny baby pencil brush with those two colors that we just used on the outer corner, and just running it right along the lower lash line, very close to the eyelashes. And then just cleaning up the edges with the powder brush that we used for our under eye concealer. Alright, last step, I'm taking the shade Funny Girl right here. I'm just using, with my finger, onto the lid. Then taking the brush from the mid-toned eyeshadow and just blending that crease in so that we don't have any harsh lines. And then the big fluffy brush, just again to make sure everything is nice and blended. And then cleaning up again any fall out from that glitter shade. Okay. Last up, I'm just going to take my highlighter again and highlight the inner corners of my eyes with the Luxie 231 small tapered blending brush. So, little baby here. And then I like to swoop it kind of over the shimmer shade that's on our lid. I feel like it just opens up the eye and gives it a little bit more of a nice and awake look, even when I am not awake. And then whatever's left on the brush just underneath the brow there, on the brow bone. Okay. For mascara, we're going to use the Tarte Lights Camera Lashes. This is my favorite mascara of all time, and this is a brand new tube of it. So. Poked myself in the eye. Oh. We're gonna let that dry and then add a second coat. And then finally for lips, I'm going to take the NARS lipstick in Cruising. Basically just the same color as my lips. So nice and natural. And then I'm gonna top it with the Burberry just clear lip gloss. With clear lip glosses, I don't like to get the applicator all gross, so I like to just put a little bit on the back of my hand. And then just kind of take my finger and tap it in. Okay, and then I actually don't own any high-end setting sprays right now. The only setting spray that I do currently own is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh setting spray. It doesn't, again, do anything for the longevity of your makeup, but it just kind of melts everything into the skin and makes it look all nice and fresh and dewy. So I'm just gonna use that. And then just fan it to dry. Alright, and then that is the makeup look. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for stopping by.